Hi everybody, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for visiting with me today. So today we are going to discuss the Madeline Soto case. Real quick, I just want to tell you, if you don't know, Madeline Soto was a 13-year-old girl, freshly 13, that went missing on February, or was reported missing on February 26th of this year, in Orlando, Florida, Kissimmee, Florida, and she was found deceased a few days later. 2 days after she was reported missing, her mother's boyfriend was arrested for having images of her, compromising images of her, to put it nicely, of him essaying her basically on his phone, and he has since been charged with a lot more related crimes, but we will talk about that in this video. So I have a sneeze, I'm so sorry. Okay. So the medical examiner is not releasing the autopsy because of the death being caused by DV, and the victim is a minor. So we don't know what the exact cause of death is, but we do know it was DV. We don't know what, though. Any number of types of DV can cause unaliving, of course, but I'm not sure we as the public need all of those details. I feel like a lot of people just want the gory details because they want them. I don't know why anybody would want the gory details of a 13-year-old's unaliving, but, you know, except to know the cause. So we know it was DV, but we don't know exactly what, though. So now let's take a look, or talk about Florida Statute 782.04, and that's for first degree unaliving. And I'm saying words this way, and DV and SA and CSA and things like that, because YouTube won't push out our content. It's not about being monetized. It's about the content not getting pushed out if we say these words. And I want to get the content pushed out. I don't get a lot of views, but that's not the point. The point is I want as many people to see it as who can, so they're aware of this case. But anyway, let's take a look at Florida Statute 782.04. I'm not going to read it verbatim or go through the entire thing. But so M word for unaliving, okay? I'm going to use unaliving for that M word for, a group of crows. The unlawful killing of a human being. In Florida, the difference between first and second degree unaliving is whether it was premeditated, occurred during the commission of a felony, aggravated abuse of an elderly person or disabled adult, aggravated stalking, aggravated CA, aggravated fleeing with serious bodily injury or death, aircraft piracy, arson, carjacking, S battery, burglary, trafficking, and domestic, or DV. And we know S battery was involved, and the last image found on his phone of him doing things to her was dated February 26th at some point, so sometime after midnight, and she was reported missing that day. So, and I'm not going to go through the whole list, but suffices to say Madeline Soto's unaliving falls under first degree. So penalties for first degree unaliving in Florida is death or life without the possibility of parole. And I do believe when they finally press charges against whoever did this, which I believe what I believe, but when they finally press charges, I do believe that they're going to go for the death penalty. But so Stephen Stearns, that's Madeline's mother Jen's boyfriend. Well, I guess they've probably broken up. I'm assuming she's not real excited about him, but I could be wrong. I know a lot of people think I am wrong about that. Stephen Stearns is scheduled to appear in county court for a jury trial on May 13th, though this date is subject to change. And I was thinking of taking that day off and going there for it. It's just a couple-hour drive. Now, it is a long drive if they cancel it or if they reschedule it that day and I'm on my way there. But I don't know. It's about a 2.5-hour drive. But I am really considering taking that day off and going there. But I don't know. We're going to see what goes on with the case. I may do it. I may not. If I could find someone else who's interested in sitting in on it, maybe I'll bring them with me. I don't know. But yeah, I was thinking of taking that day off and going there for it. Not be one of those people with like a camera and just be like vlogging the whole thing, you know. I mean, God. I mean, yeah, I know I vlog and I make videos and I talk about this topic a lot, but again, I'm not up people's asses with it. You know what I mean? Oh, and there is a pre-trial hearing on April 24th. And the 60 charges are 8 counts of S battery of a child under 12, 5 counts of S battery with a child 12 to 18, 7 counts lewd and lascivious M-word, 40 counts of material depicting the S performance of a child, 10 or more images per charge. So at least 400 images. And the sheriff said in the press conference the other day that it's all the same person. It's all the same child. And it's all in Madeline's house. So, and the date of birth, like the child's name is redacted on the affidavits, but Madeline's date of birth is on them. And it said the child that was reported is missing on another page. So we know it was Madeline. So he was arrested as a result of the Madeline Soto missing person case, arrested when she was still considered missing, 2 days after she was reported missing. And the charges are at this point considered unrelated to her unaliving. Now, the night he was arrested, earlier that day, about 6 hours before he was arrested, they held a press conference and said that they believed that Madeline was no longer living. They had evidence to show. No, they hadn't found her yet, but they had reason to believe that she was no longer alive. And then about 6 hours after that press conference, they arrested him. And it wasn't because of her unaliving. It wasn't because of her missing. It was related to information found on his phone, because they asked to see his phone and he said sure, but he factory reset it, and I guess he thought that made everything go away, and it didn't. They found the filth he had on his phone of what he was doing to this little girl. And me personally, I'm pretty confident it was Stearns that unalived Madeline. I'm pretty confident of that. It's what makes the most sense. And I usually lean towards what makes the most sense. It may not always be the most exciting or the most theatrical version, but I always look at what makes the most sense. And it could have been someone else, but at this point, I don't believe it was. I believe it was him. I believe it was him. And I know a lot of people suspect Madeline's mom, Jen's, involvement in some capacity. And I've heard theories of varying degrees. Some think Jen was jealous of her and unalived her herself. Some think Jen lost her temper. Others thought maybe she gave Madeline sleeping medicine and gave her too much. But we know now that's not true. It wasn't sleeping medicine. But I still don't believe Jen did it. I don't believe it was Jen. She may have known something about it, or she may have known. I just don't understand how your child could be SA'd for so many years in your home, because they said all of the images are from inside the house. I don't understand how that can go on in your home for that long and her not know about it. But women, maybe are desperate for a man and are willing to just be blind to things, just pretend they're not happening because they don't want to be alone. I don't understand I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be deathly alone than be with someone that would hurt my child. But that's just me. And I think most of the women and moms, at least that are watching me, that are commenting and stuff, would throw themselves in front of a bus for their kids. So someone needs to throw him in front of a bus, but I think that's too good for him. But where was I in my notes? Okay, so again, back to the DV, we know from the medical examiner that it was the unalivened was because of DV, something DV related. Specifically, the District 9 medical examiner's office says her autopsy can't be released because she's a minor whose death was related to an act of DV, and it's therefore confidential and exempt from release. So we do know an act of DV is what unalived her, which again can be any number of things. So we don't know if it was asphyxiation, a bludgeoning, or what. So we still don't really know what the cause is. Some people think we do, but we only know that it was DV related, and we know the manner, that it was homicide. I know a lot of people were speculating that it could have been that she unalived herself. I never believed that either, but we know now that that's not the case either. And I also want to bring up the 911 calls. Everyone is talking about the 911 calls and how they're suspicious. I don't get that the calls were suspicious. I don't understand why people think they're suspicious. I've been watching videos and listening to people talk about them, but I'm like, that's not suspicious. That's not, and like people thought because the one girl said thank you to the operator that was suspicious. I'm like, no, that's just polite. I mean, no, it wasn't necessary, but that's just, when I had to call 911 for myself, I said thank you. So, of course it was me. It wasn't like, I wasn't calling about a missing child, but I did question Mom when she said she called 911 at around, I have to read my notes because I had to really, really study on this because I had to write all these notes down. She said she called 911 at around 4:30, 4:45 because the police didn't arrive until after 8:30. And then the police said she called 911 at 7:47-ish. But in some reports, it was 8:30 that she called. The story keeps changing. So I think that may be because there were several calls to 911. They called several times. But I think those were those were just one of the additional calls. Now, I believe Mom may have called when she told WFTV she called. Because I hear it took over 4 hours for them to come from the first call. So that would make sense if they arrived like at 8:30. Or maybe her sister did call 911 for her. I don't see why it exactly makes a difference, except she said she called herself. That could just be because she didn't think that detail mattered. I don't know that it mattered who called 911, but you know, it matters to a lot of people who are watching these videos. So I guess it matters to somebody, but I do think we're hearing the 911 calls in descendant order, though. So the call that I think is Grandma, I think was the third call, and the middle call was the second call, and the third call was the first call. But I don't know if there were any calls prior to that. But I don't know if those are all the calls because Grandma said they called like 3 times, unless she was counting that time as the third time. I do think it's outrageous that it took so long to get anyone out there. Like, this isn't about beating up the police at all. This isn't about that. But I do think it's outrageous that it took more than 4 hours for a police officer to get out there. I mean, I'm sorry to be dismal because we now know Madeline was already deceased before the call was even made. But nobody at that time knew that. And what if she wasn't? You know, what if she wasn't? A lot can happen to a person in even the shortest amount of time. So if she was not deceased at the time of the first call, she very well could have been made deceased by the third one. And I know it's a topic I don't think is worth discussing really, but people are interested in it, and it just makes me wonder how long parents are waiting when they call in Osceola or Orange County and say their kid is missing. How long are they waiting? Because it could be a matter of minutes. The child could be alive and then gone in a matter of minutes. And again, let's try not to get too impatient with the investigators. Let them investigate. Let them get every tiny stitch of evidence they possibly can. As I've said it 100 times, they do not want to mess this up. It's likely going to be a death penalty case, and like the Casey Anthony case was. And so they want all their ducks in a row for whoever is charged with the crime. We don't want another Casey Anthony. We do not want another Casey Anthony. And I am going to talk about that case from beginning to end very soon. After my quiet on set, I'll probably start working on that. But I have a couple other big projects I'm working on, so bear with me on that one. Of course, if it's Stearns, he's not going anywhere anyway. He's not going anywhere. But we want to get Madeline justice, as small as it is. I don't think we could ever truly have justice in a case like this, as a child is still lost. She's not coming back. And after, she's lost, her life is lost, and she was probably lost after years of what seems a pretty dismal life because of this pig, Stearns, because of him. And let's talk about children and SA real quick. I just want to discuss this a little bit. It is never too early to educate children on this topic. Obviously, we have to be mindful and consider a child's age and their learning level. But they need to know what's inappropriate and hopefully raise strong, confident children. Stranger danger needs to be updated or amended to include acquaintance danger, because most of these kids are hurt by people they know, people they were taught that they were supposed to trust or love in some way. And children love. That's what they do. They love. So they need to be taught about people that aren't worthy or deserving of their love. And it's hard. It's hard. And it's bullcrap that we have to put this on children to understand. But these creeps, they're never going to stop. And children need to be taught that it is okay to say no. Don't force your children to hug people. Don't do that. I hate that when I see someone try to force a kid to hug somebody. And don't force relationships or interactions. And even, maybe come up with scenarios and explain that to children. Like, look, someone might tell you something like, if you tell, I'll hurt your mom. Let the kids know that that's BS. He doesn't have the balls to hurt me. So you tell me. I don't care who it is. You tell me. Because they're just trying to scare the kid. Because they don't have the balls to scare a grown-up, But nicely. Do it nicely. Make sure they know that they aren't going to be in trouble. That they're not going to be in trouble. That they didn't do anything wrong. That they're not the ones doing anything wrong by saying no. By pushing themselves away from somebody, and by resisting, by not wanting to engage. They're not going to be in trouble for that. There is, unfortunately, no foolproof way to protect children against SA, but there are a lot of things you can do to reduce the risk. Be actively involved with your child. You may live under the same roof, have dinner together, all that, but are you actively involved? Be actively involved. Ask questions. Be a helicopter if you have to be a helicopter, but protect your child. And I know the police say Stearns' charges aren't related to the homicide, but I disagree with that. In the highly likely event Stearns is charged with Madeline's unaliving, I think it's absolutely related. If she hadn't been essayed by Stearns all those years, she'd be alive today. She'd be alive today. And people say you can't blame the mom because she didn't know or whatever. She was just trying to have a boyfriend. And I'm like, we need to make better decisions, moms. We need to make better choices. And I'm really interested in what his defense is going to say. Like, what is his defense going to be? I just got to hear it. I got to hear what they're coming up with. I mean, what can he really say? The information, the images were found on his phone, and they know it's Madeline, and they know it's him because of the unusual penis. You know, if you have a weird penis, don't do things like that. Well, don't do things like that anyway. But okay, and let's talk about Madeline's father's silence. I want to talk about this because people are like trying to attack him for not coming out and saying anything. Not everybody is a public figure. Not everyone wants to be on television. Not everyone wants to be like, hey, look at me, I'm dad. And it doesn't matter if he did come out there saying, oh, he's just trying to get attention on him. It doesn't matter what anybody does. People are going to find something wrong with them. It's so evil. But he's probably devastated. In fact, I'm sure of it. And he was hit with Madeline missing, then hit with mom's boyfriend arrested for SA on a child, you know, and then hit with Madeline has been found deceased. Give him a break, people. Give him a break. He's just a man, and he's probably in shock. Back off of him. He's probably experiencing like hardcore PTSD right now. He's not having a picnic. He's probably just completely lost. Now, with Jen Soto, I kind of get it because of her problematic interviews, you know, but I personally am trying to give her grace too because we don't know everything. We don't know everything. We don't know all the details. And frankly, we don't have to know all the details. We're not entitled to know all the details. And they don't need to tell us. And yes, I'm following the case. It's deeply affected a lot of people, including myself. It's really, it hurts my heart what happened here. But my hope is that as tragic as it is and as horrible as it is, this case will lead to some kind of changes, and maybe the people who are opposed to the death penalty for S battery on a child under 12 will see they need to rethink that, because these people will never change. They will never change. All of them escalate, and a lot of them do end up killing these children. And we need to start making a true example of them. They ruin lives. They take lives. Even if they don't unalive the child, they have destroyed a life. They've destroyed multiple lives because they've destroyed the whole family. And something's got to change because more and more children are getting hurt by these types of people every single day. And it's not okay. It's not okay. And what is it going to take? I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't know how to protect all these kids. I know we need to educate them more. I know we need to educate parents more. Like, I know a mom, her son is my age now, but she was so shy about talking about anything like that. Her and her husband both were really uptight about talking about anything like that with their kid. And my mom would tell me all the time that they're not talking to him about all these things. Now, my mom talked to me about it, but it was when I was about 12 years old, and it had already happened to me when I was 11. So that's why I'm saying you got to talk to these kids young. You've got to talk to them young and just make it part of the conversation on a regular basis. I mean, don't inundate children with it, but it's just, we have to do all we can to protect these kids. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm babbling now, so I'm going to go. But that's really all I have to say. I just wanted to mainly talk about the ME's report not coming out and everything. But I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye.